Welcome to the Online Digital Marketing Podcast. We'll be discussing marketing strategies, trends, and tips that will help your business succeed in the digital age. Every episode, we'll be interviewing industry professionals and providing valuable insights on how to leverage digital tools for maximum engagement and ROI. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest trends in online marketing.
Good morning, and welcome to the Online Digital Marketing Today podcast. My name is Marvin Drobes. I'm here in this beautiful Garden State where the weather is going from 70 degrees down to 35 right now in this state. I'm suspecting, or don't doubt, we could possibly have even some snow anytime soon. But anyway, I appreciate those that are joining us live. Thank you for supporting us. Save your questions for the end for Julia. And with that, as you know, I'm a stickler for time, so we're going to get started right away. So let me introduce you to Julia Bocchese. I hope I said that right.
Close enough.
Julia is an SEO, Pinterest, and AI search strategist who helps businesses get found online and attract the right clients through search. She's the founder of Julia Renee Consulting, where she builds clear, sustainable strategies that are focused on real growth, conversions, and long-term visibility without the confusing jargon. And today we're going to address Pinterest of all things, Julia, because as you and I met and spoke, a lot of digital marketing companies and small businesses, if you're not in the food industry or perhaps the building industry where you could take before and after pictures, people don't believe Pinterest is a platform that would go ahead and be worthy of their time. And obviously, that's not the case. So we have several questions that we want to go over today. And obviously, the first one I want to ask you is what kinds of businesses should be using Pinterest?
Yeah, so you definitely don't have to have a visual business to perform well on Pinterest. You do need to have some kind of content. So whether that's like videos or blog posts or even a podcast that you can repurpose into blog posts, any kind of content can perform well on Pinterest. So I've worked with people, our clients varying from schools that are international to one was a training program for swimmers, training for the Olympics. So no one like in the food space, interior designers can definitely perform well on Pinterest, but even real estate agents can do really well there. So kind of a variety of businesses can actually perform really well on Pinterest. And even if you aren't in one of the like major niches, like, food, fashion, home decor and design, that means you actually have a lot less competition. So you can actually perform better than if you are in one of these larger niches.
I think that's a great point you bring up. Competition. We all
Mhm.
struggle to be number one. And my
Mhm.
motto, if you've been to my website, is don't just be just don't be number one, be the only one.
Mhm.
And I guess an offshoot of this is a question that I know we didn't discuss prior, but when people are using Pinterest, for example, um, you bring up it's got to be visual, whether
Mhm.
it's a video, a podcast recording that you can repurpose for Pinterest. Uh, how how many when for text purposes,
Mhm.
how much text are you allowed to use in Pinterest? Is there a limit?
Mhm. Yeah, so there is a bit of a limit. So Pinterest is a more visual platform. So you do need to create what's called like, pins or, it can be like a graphic or just a standalone image or video. And then on those pins, you can have like the pin title and then also the pin description. So it's kind of similar to title tags and meta descriptions for SEO, but the description on Pinterest, I think, can be up to like 750 characters. Like it's much, much longer than a meta description. And then the pin title can also, I think it's a few hundred characters. So a little bit more detailed, and you can, go longer than just your standard title tags and meta descriptions, but there is a limit on, how many words you can use there. So you're not, putting an entire blog post on Pinterest. You're just kind of summarizing and getting people interested in clicking on the pin to go to your website.
Oh, okay. So that's a good point. So the pins are actually redirects to a website.
Yeah. So you'll
Okay,
create the, pin graphic or have your photo or video, and then that will link to a piece of content that lives on your website. So if you have blog posts or, portfolio pages or an email freebie or something like that, you can link it to whatever makes sense for that pin. But yeah, you do need to have a link for that pin.
great, great. So there's a lot of talk to platforms, and I wanted to ask you this actually in the beginning of our conversation today. But people, when we talk about Pinterest again, you know, in our agency, and I think several of the other guys that are doing it as agencies and not businesses, we want to know where our people hang out. Now, we don't use Pinterest. That's why I'm glad to have you as our guest today, because I need my hand slapped, I think, a little bit.
Mhm.
And basically, how do we know or find out if our clientele, our potential
Mhm.
clientele, is hanging out on the platform so that we know that the time spent is going to be valuable for us?
Mhm. Yeah, so Pinterest, there is actually quite a few different types of audiences that are on Pinterest. So it is definitely heavily women, and typically kind of in the like 30 to 50 age range. But there are a surprising number of men, and it is growing on Pinterest as well. I actually recently did a guest lecture at a university and asked, how many students use Pinterest themselves, and half of the men in the room raised their hands. So even like Gen Z guys are on there as well. But you can actually go to Pinterest and start just, searching topics that maybe you're writing about already or you're thinking about writing about or that, your ideal audience would be interested in to see if those topics are already on Pinterest. And that could be a good indication that, people are interested in them. You can see, if those pins are getting saves or, how big those brands are that are writing about those topics already. You can also go to a website called Pinterest Trends. So it's trends.pinterest.com. And it's similar to like a keyword research tool for SEO where you can type in different topics and see how many people are searching for it or, what the different trends are throughout the year. I will say those topics are a bit more general. They don't have a lot of like really like with, keyword research with SEO, you can get really specific on keywords. Even if no one's searching it, you can still check to see if anyone is searching it. So this is a little bit more general. So you can't really type in, super niche blog post topics or something like that, but you can kind of like step out and, do some more general searches to see if this is something that people are searching for and also how many people are searching for it throughout the year.
Okay, so with AI today and the social media platforms, a lot of
Mhm,
people are intertwining them with the king, queen, and jack of the court, Google search.
mhm,
How does Pinterest work in regards to acting as a search engine?
mhm. Yeah, so it's very similar to a search engine. So this is where a lot of people kind of get confused with Pinterest because it is typically lumped in with social media like Facebook and Instagram. But things that you're doing on Instagram aren't going to, work the same on Pinterest. I see a lot of times people will just automatically post whatever they're doing on Instagram over on Pinterest. But similar to Google, Pinterest is more cold audience. So you're not going to get a lot of followers on Pinterest. Unless you're like a huge brand or something like that. But followers don't really matter. It's more of how people are searching on Pinterest, how you're using keywords on your pins, and then driving that traffic back to your website. So if you have a lot of content that people are searching for on Pinterest, that is going to be what drives the traffic and builds your audience on Pinterest. So there are a lot of like SEO strategies, especially with your profile, with getting that, optimized, making sure you're incorporating some keywords in your profile name and your description. Also, they have what are called boards. So it's kind of similar to, different blog post categories, but you need to make sure that your boards have, strong keywords in the title and then also in the description. So you can't kind of just post pretty photos on Instagram and hope that you get found. You do actually need to be more strategic, similar to how, you're likely being strategic with your SEO strategy.
So if I kind of heard you right, this is not like Facebook or
Mhm,
of course their sister Instagram, or even Google Business Profile,
mhm,
where it seems to me that what you're telling me is that people who do follow you on Pinterest have more value because they're more interested in what you're doing than some of
mhm.
these other platforms. Am I correct?
Yes, but they typically, so the Pinterest user will typically go to Pinterest to search for a topic. So a lot of times they aren't just like scrolling on their home feed like you would on, Instagram. So they may not necessarily see like the new pins that you're putting out right away. It may be something that they kind of like see down the road. Or if they are like a really, big super fan of yours, they might go specifically to your profile to kind of see what you have pinned recently, or if you have any new videos or something like that. But the followers on Pinterest, they don't matter, as much as they do on Instagram or Facebook, where like you really do need to have followers in order to have people see your content. Whereas on Pinterest, followers are kind of like a nice to have, and they can kind of like be a signal to Pinterest that people are interested in your content, but they aren't kind of like the end all be all.
That's interesting because I know when Facebook, we started in Facebook 2008, our goal was to get as many followers as we
Mhm,
could. And what we've learned over the years is that it's not the followers that count, it's the quality of
mhm,
those followers that make a difference.
mhm,
So, again, looking at what you've already told us, I think Pinterest is an interesting platform in the
mhm,
fact that those that do communicate with you and want to know what's going on are people who are possibly those people that you should try to connect on different
mhm,
levels with, that whether you can help them or possibly form a partnership with them
mhm,
to work with them. So, and again, what you've already told us kind of points to some of the differences from the platforms like Instagram, or we haven't talked about TikTok when it comes to
mhm,
marketing. But if you had to put your finger on what makes Pinterest different, what would you tell
mhm.
your audience?
Definitely the shelf life for the content that you put on Pinterest. So, yeah, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, typically people will stop seeing the content that you're putting up there after like, I think 24 to 48 hours, unless you have something that goes viral. But Pinterest, the pins can actually live on Pinterest for months to even years. I've had clients who they've come to me and they've had pins from like 2009 that are still driving traffic to their website. So what you put on Pinterest today can still be driving traffic, in the next like 6 months to, year or even possibly several years, if it's something that people are really interested in and that they're engaging with. So that's kind of, one bonus with Pinterest is that anything that you're doing can help drive traffic, far into the future.
Fantastic. I like that.
Mhm.
I like to be around. At my age, I'd like to be around a lot longer, but that's beside the point. We talk about small businesses and their search for the platform that's perfect for them.
Mhm.
So, what I'd like you to answer is, what are the benefits of Pinterest for the small business owner?
Mhm. Yeah, so like I said, it can be a really good source of traffic, especially if you have something like an email list that you're trying to build. If you have some like links to freebies, you can put those on Pinterest and help build up your, email list. If you have, let's say blog posts on your website and you're using those blog posts to strategically, get people interested in your services and you're able to drive, traffic from Pinterest to that blog post, it can be a really great way of getting potential clients and customers to your website because they are interested in your content since that is already what they were searching for on Pinterest, and then they clicked over to your website. So if they are interested in what you have to offer, then they're much more likely to convert to an email subscriber or a customer or something like that. Whereas sometimes on Instagram, people are just like scrolling through and liking things without like actively paying attention. But these people on Pinterest are actively paying attention because they are searching specifically for what they're interested in. So if you already have some sort of content, whether it is blog posts, podcasts, YouTube videos, or even if you're creating Instagram Reels, you can repurpose those videos as video pins on Pinterest. So you can just repurpose whatever content that you already have that's performing well and put it on Pinterest to reach more people who are actively searching for what you have.
Okay, so I want to go back to Pinterest as a search engine.
Mhm.
And obviously, we talk about Google SEO, keywords.
Mhm.
We talk about it not only in Google, but any of the platforms today, ChatGPT. So, how important are the keywords on Pinterest, and where should
Mhm.
businesses primarily be using them?
Yeah, so keywords are like one of the most important Pinterest SEO strategies because it signals to, Pinterest what that pin is about, what the content is about when someone clicks on the pin, and then also, helps when people are searching for the keywords on Pinterest. So with the keywords, you can use them in the pin title and the pin description, which, like I said, are similar to the title tag and meta description for SEO purposes. And then if you have a pin graphic, so that's just, an image that has a text overlay on it, or even just like a colored background with, text on it or something like that. You can actually use the keywords there to reinforce to the Pinterest AI who's like reading these, pins, what the, content is about. And then, so that's for the pins specifically. And then you can also set up what are called boards, which are, just kind of like categories. So if you write about, let's say if you do real estate and you want to have boards that are related to like different homes that you're showing or different like interior design inspiration or something like that. Whatever pins that you have that fit into those categories, you can pin those to those specific boards. On the boards itself, you can have the board title and the board description, which is also where you should, have some strong keywords. So instead of just naming a board like design, which is very general, could mean a lot of different things. It could be like, interior design for homes in Florida, something like that. That's more specific to your ideal audience, what they're searching for, and then also to the content that you're putting out there. So use the keywords on the pin graphic itself, if you have like text on the pin title, the pin description, and then also your board should have keywords in the board title and the board description.
How strict is Pinterest with using AI generated images?
They will allow AI generated images from what I've seen, but they recently came out with a setting where the user can go in and hide all AI generated images. So a lot of people on Pinterest are like the Pinterest users are kind of anti AI since I mean, Pinterest is for creators, so people who are, artists, photographers, or, recipe creators, something like that. And it's a little bit misleading if you have a picture of a, beautiful plate of food, but you actually didn't make that food, and then people are going to expect that their food looks the same way if they follow the recipe. So people on Pinterest are kind of anti-AI images because they want to make sure that what they're seeing is actually what they're going to get when they create the recipe or they do that home design or something like that. So you can definitely put AI generated images on there, but people may actually be blocking them. So I typically don't recommend it unless it's something that is just kind of like a general stock photo that you're using in a pin design, but I wouldn't create images that are misleading the Pinterest user and kind of like creating these false expectations.
Okay, now the question for today. Everybody's asking, can Pinterest actually generate leads and sales, or is it more just a visibility platform?
Mhm. So it can be both. So I've actually had clients who just want it for brand visibility. They like don't necessarily care about the conversions. I've had one who she just wanted to make sure that her name was being, put out there on the, specific type of pin designs that she had because they were unique and she didn't want people copying them. But it can also be a really great way to get leads and clients. You just have to understand that typically people from Pinterest aren't going to immediately convert into a client. You do need to make sure that you have some sort of marketing funnel set up, whether it's like you have small products or an email list or something else. And you need to get the visitors from Pinterest into that funnel in order to, help them convert later down the line. So typically the visitors coming from Pinterest, like I said, they're a cold audience, so you do need to kind of like warm them up with whatever sales funnel that you have set up. But it can be a really great way to, help grow your email list or, help convert clients down the road. But you do need to make sure that your website is set up to convert them into, email subscribers or wherever you want them to go. I see a lot of times that people have really great blog posts, but then they have no call to action at all. So people are just going to read the blog posts and then leave. Whereas if you have a great blog post and then you have an email freebie that's related to that topic, you're much more likely to get them to convert if you have a really, eye-catching, an intriguing freebie. So make sure that you do have your website that is set up well to, convert them to wherever it is that you want them to go.
Julia, you just slapped my both hands because you're talking about blog posts, and I'm guilty because I do put usually two blog posts a week
Hmm.
on my website, and I forget many times to put a call to action or an offer.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at my blog post, there's, I don't know, probably like 80 of them already. And, we tell people how important when we build out a website today, we tell them one of the drop down menus or the navigation menus, you're going to want to have a blog because blog today in SEO is like probably, in my experience in the last 6 months specifically, the number one ranking feature
Mm-hmm.
that people can use. So, thanks for slapping my hands. They're stinging a little bit, but that's great. So, yeah, we've seen the importance of blog posts and how they play
Hmm.
out in Pinterest. What are the biggest mistakes that you see as a Pinterest specialist, an SEO
Hmm.
specialist, that the small business owner is making? And I would assume it's not just the small, it's probably everyone out there. I'm sure the big, I mean, I only have today one big company that I work with. Okay. And their whole thing is they're on LinkedIn and they're on Google Business Profile. That is it. They don't bother with Facebook, TikTok,
Hmm.
Pinterest, Instagram. They're not interested. They don't think that's the platform for them. So basically, what are the mistakes that people in the profession that like you and some of the people on our call can look at to help people understand that Pinterest is a platform worthy of investigation?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest mistakes I see is people not understanding that it is a search engine. So people will just literally copy whatever they're doing on Instagram over to Pinterest. I actually had a call with someone last week who was doing this, and her Instagram captions are like, oh, check out our new design and, hashtag interior designer, hashtag Philadelphia, stuff like that. But there were no keywords in it. There was nothing describing what was actually in the image, what the design was about, what style of the design. Also, hashtags don't matter, on Pinterest like they do on Instagram and other places. So making sure that you're understanding that you need to get into more of an SEO mindset. So making sure you are targeting those keywords and then also understanding that people who likely are seeing these pins have no idea who you are. And also, honestly, they probably don't care who you are right away. So you need to make sure you get them to care, and that's how you convert them to a client. But if they just see a pin, they have no idea who your brand is. If you're just kind of like having a generic, pin description about like, oh, my day was great, or like, check out this cool thing I did. They don't care about that. So you need to make sure that you are writing, really clear pin titles and pin descriptions and everything in the mindset that whoever sees this pin has no idea what it is about or who you are. So you need to make sure that you are giving that information in order to get them interested in visiting your website, because the whole goal is to get them off of Pinterest and onto your website. So make sure that you have, really clear pin titles and pin descriptions written for a cold audience who has no idea who your brand is.
Okay, great. Okay, so I guess my last question for you today, the $10,000 question. Okay, if someone is just getting started,
Mhm,
and as an agency owner specifically, as well as a business, what are the first things they need? I know we talked about they should,
mhm,
but should is a weird word. They should, but they don't. So what would you say they need to focus on to make Pinterest a
mhm.
platform that will help them grow their business?
Yeah, so first, definitely having a really good understanding of who your ideal audience is and the type of content that they're interested in or the type of content that's going to help them the most. And then also focusing on the content on your website first, because if you just try to, be really active on Pinterest, but you only have one blog post, that's only going to get you so far. But if you come to Pinterest and you already have like 10 to 20 really strong blog posts that are converting people to sign up for your email list or to follow you on YouTube or follow your podcasts, that is going to serve you a lot more in the long run on Pinterest than if you're kind of just like testing things out with your content and, hoping it'll drive some email subscribers, but you don't actually have the data to back it up. So making sure that you're coming to Pinterest with a strong strategy on your website and on your content already.
Okay, great. Julia, you brought us a lot of information
Mhm,
today. I hope that for the listeners that are live with us, as well as those that will be hearing us through our podcast channels, understand that Pinterest is alive, it's well,
mhm,
and it's a place that perhaps you should be looking at if you haven't done anything with it. For those that are agency owners, obviously. If you're not offering, I noticed that Donna, who's on the call live with us today, she offers it, but they don't do, she doesn't personally do anything with it. So, here's why we have our podcast when we get the opportunity. It's been a while to do the live calls with a guest, but why we bring people like Julia onto the call, because here's a chance possibly you can connect with Julia and she can help your clients. She could be one of your, forgive me, Julia, a VA, a virtual assistant for you, and work on your behalf with your clients to make your success with them even greater. Now, this podcast, I'm going to do something different. Normally, I would edit and stop the recording. I'm not going to. I'm going to ask if there's any questions to unmute yourself and come on board and ask Julia. And we're right on time, so this is perfect. And we'll give Julia a chance to answer any of your questions. So let's give it a shot, guys.
mhm.
Questions. See that, Julia? I got a very shy audience.
I was gonna
Or,
say I don't bite.
or you did such a great job, nobody has any questions. Anybody have a question? Let's see, William. Um, William, let's see, what did you put it in chat here? What's the average
Mhm.
demographics uh,
Yeah.
of Pinterest? Great
Mhm.
question, William.
Hmm. Yeah, so I don't think I specifically said the demographics earlier, but it's around 70% women, 30% men. Usually the age range varies, honestly, from like teenagers to, people who are retired in later life. But kind of the largest demographic is usually women around like age, 30 to 50. But I mean, that doesn't mean that if you are targeting, Gen Z men, that they're not there. It just means the largest population on Pinterest is women.
Okay, great. Good question again, William. I appreciate it. And anybody else have any questions for Julia before we wrap up today? I mean, I've written some
Yeah,
notes
let me
here.
try one. I'll try
Yeah, go
one.
ahead.
Where do pins actually show up? Only on Pinterest, I presume.
Yeah, so pins show up on Pinterest. Some actually can rank on Google, or profiles can also rank on Google. I've actually seen this a lot when I'm doing keyword research for my SEO clients, that some of the top ranking, websites for some of their keywords are actually Pinterest pins.
Great, great, great. I hope that answers your question there, Joseph. Donna has a question. She asked, I tried it years ago when I had no idea about SEO, but how much more important is it than Google?
I would definitely focus on Google first, because when people go to Pinterest, they're typically not searching specifically for services. So they're not searching for like, interior designer near me. They are searching more for like information or inspiration or things like that. So to kind of get those more direct conversions, I would definitely focus on your SEO first, just to reach people who are searching, specifically for the services. But once you have, some content on your website, it's a really good, way to start getting more traffic to your content, using your content to, again, kind of like feed those people into your marketing funnel and everything like that. But I would definitely focus on Google first.
You know, for those of us on the call and those listening to it in the recording, what I'm hearing is that there's a thread that's running through this, Julia, and you can help me out here. It seems that in the world of digital marketing and being found, this thread goes through everything that's online.
Mhm,
It starts and has for so many years, as I said earlier, the king, queen, jack of the court, Google,
mhm,
84% of all searches as of last year, 2025, was still being done through Google. You have Bing, you got Yahoo, which were their competitors, which they buried a long time ago. And then years ago, though many of us don't know about it, there was such a thing called AI, artificial intelligence. And in the last, what, 2 years, year and a half specifically, this last 6 months, everybody is running I mean, the key word in all of the internet is AI, 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 okay? And what we're seeing is, for example, starting with ChatGPT, they became a search engine. People are actually going into ChatGPT and asking the questions that we used to ask on Google. Who's the best SEO specialist in X area? Okay. So I think what I'm learning and in your presentation today is that, again, we're not sure where all of the people that we want to deal with are hanging out.
mhm,
If we don't at least try it, get in there and add it to our platforms that we're currently doing, we're going to never know. And then talk about AI. With AI, God knows, you can have the Pinterest stuff all outlined for you using AI. So
mhm.
there's not really a lot of effort other than to humanize it and make sure that it sounds like you in terms of that. So, yeah, I think that I know I'm going to have my team look at Pinterest a little closer now. So, let me ask, is there any other questions? I'm going to do a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I can count backwards. 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. I'm sorry, before we get off the call, obviously, if people want to connect with you and learn more about your SEO, your Pinterest, and all the things that you do and how you can complement and help the business owner as well as the agency owners in their quest to use things like Pinterest, how's the best way they can connect with you through email, the platforms themselves? Um, just let us know.
Yeah. So you can find me pretty much anywhere at Julia Renee Consulting. So my website is juliareneeconsulting.com. My email is julia@juliareneeconsulting.com. And yeah, I do offer Pinterest services for clients, and then I do offer white label services as well for agencies. So if you want to offer Pinterest for your clients but don't want to do it yourself, I can definitely help with that.
Fantastic. So that's one way. And you said the email again,
Mhm.
just for
Yep.
everybody.
It's julia@juliareneeconsulting.com.
Fantastic. And I'll put that on the podcast too. And for those of you that are listening to this live or in recording again, I encourage you to follow the podcasts. We hit a milestone a little over a week ago. We hit the 2,500 download for the agency, which is now 2.5 years of podcasting. But what I find interesting is in the beginning, everything is so slow. And then all of a sudden this year, in 12 months, we had over 1,700 downloads. And that doesn't tell you those people who just click it and listen to it and didn't download it, because you can find it on Spotify and Apple, as well as several other platforms. So I want to thank you, Julia. It's been, for me, an eye opener. And I'm sure for others who are listening, they're going to find it very interesting. And I will look forward to you coming back, I hope, as we get deeper into some of the other things that you do. So with that, guys, want to have you say thank you to Julia. You can do it in chat. You can open up your microphones and say thank you for being our guest today. And I will see you on the next broadcast coming up. Check our Facebook private group. And Julia, yes, I will let you know, because we'd love to have you in there and see what's happening. And they got a lot of thanks coming in, and that's super. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.
Ready to take your online business to the next level? Subscribe to our digital marketing podcast and then join our Accountability for Success Mastermind. With expert advice from industry leaders, you'll gain knowledge and insights that will help you succeed in today's digital marketing world. From social media strategies to search engine optimization, we have all the tools you need. Learn from successful entrepreneurs and take control of your online success. Join the Accountability for Success Mastermind now at bit.ly/AFSM podcast.